Have you ever gotten a text that ruined your whole week? You probably have, but has it ever gotten you so scared that you start praying despite being an atheist? Now, for this story to make sense, we're going to have to go back to June 2023. Now, this is not when the story takes place, but it is important to just give some further context as to who's involved, right? And basically, I had met Jasmine for the first time again. Now, we used to be friends back in my old town when we were in elementary school, but we hadn't really seen each other in years up to that point because I moved away in 2021. And basically, we became friends again. We started talking more. I told her about my now ex Amelia, and she told me about her boyfriend Caleb. And I never knew anything about Caleb other than the fact that he was just this guy that she was dating, I guess, and apparently he was nice. Now, Caleb is kind of just a side part of this story. He is still important, but the main thing that I want y'all to take away from this is that before the story, she went to a boarding school all the way out in Missouri. All right. Now, we live in Kentucky, so this is a few states away, and she's away from her whole family, and obviously she's bound to get a little lonely. However, even before going here, she was a fiend for substances. All right. She told me she used to be addicted to crack, just all types of bad stuff, and like, if you handed her a substance of any kind, she would take that like Bonnie Blue, okay? Now, I already kind of explained that over my TikTok and on the video compilation before this one, but if you want to go check that out, you can after this one. This is just kind of a prequel to the video where she got caught with weed. Anyway, fast forward to September of the same year when we hit Memorial Day weekend. Now, my parents are basically going out of town for something, right? And that leaves us to my sister Autumn to babysit me. Now, Autumn was 10 years older than me. So she would basically spend the entire time just hanging out with me, doing whatever, right? Now, we basically spend most of the time together except for when we needed alone time, as we'll get into later in the story. But we'd go shopping together at Walmart, we'd watch TV together, we'd even wrestle together, right? And she would beat my ass every time. In fact, I even remember I tied a pillow to my ceiling fan right there, and I would throw hands at that pillow, because the ceiling fan would make the pillow dodge, and I really thought that made sense. It was like a dodging punching bag, like you'd see in those TV shows with the cops shooting at the little dummies that move around like this, right? That's how I felt, and I still get my ass kicked by her. And you know what she said? She would say, right, that she would make fun of me because she was able to beat my ass despite her being a girl with cancer, by the way. Yeah, she has lung cancer, by the way, and she still beat my ass. Anyway, that's a story for another time. But then we, just kept doing shit. We ate junk food till I threw up. There were those Walmart brownies that were pretty good. Not as good as my mom's, but they were still pretty good. And I would eat the shit out of those. And then, as I just said, I'd throw up later. So that was definitely fun. But basically, right, this is about the night before the story took place. And she finally got me to watch Rick and Morty. Now, she got me to watch it about a year ago over winter break. And I just kind of forgot about it. But this time, I actually got locked in on it. And we got to about season 2, I'd like to say. And this was the day of. And basically, this is when things go south. Now, this was during the Unity episode in particular, right? Where Rick goes to his girlfriend's planet, she has the hive mind. And I checked my phone only to see 30 minutes ago, Jasmine texted me saying hospital. Now, obviously, I'm going to take that shit seriously, right? I'm going to start to panic. Because, if your friend's in the hospital, surely something happened to them, right? And she's like, no, it's too embarrassing. I can't tell you. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing this. And I ask Autumn to pause the show, and I go to my room and keep kind of pressing her for information. And that is when things got even worse. Basically, I keep talking to her, right? And eventually, she actually tells me what's going on with her. And I'm probably going to butcher this, but she had taken I'm reading on my TV right now. N-decyl isotonazine. That's horrible, right? And this was because Caleb had broken up with her a few days ago, and she had gotten a dark web account and ordered it to her boarding school. Now, I'm already wondering, okay, how did she get into boarding school? Well, we're actually going to find that out later. But for now, I actually have the message on screen right now, if y'all want to read it. But it's a synthetic opioid, right? And that scared the shit out of me. Because she said, right, she got 5 grams of it, and it was more powerful than fentanyl. And she had already taken a lethal amount, and she was in the hospital, which meant that, according to the doctors, she only had a 20% chance of survival. A 20% chance. And as she said, That's basically a 0% chance. Like, when a doctor tells you that, that basically means you're dead, right? And I mean, that was an 80% chance that she would live, 20% chance that, or 20% chance that she would live, 80% chance that she would die. And I'm like telling her, no, you're not gonna die. There's only a 20% chance that you're gonna live. That's not a 0% chance. You gotta do this, bro. You gotta let yourself fight off these drugs. You gotta go through with this operation, whatever they're having you do, right? You gotta go through with it. And she's like, nah, I've just always been pessimistic. Nah, no. Make that glass half full. Make that glass all the way full, bro. You are not dying on me right now, okay? Now, after her boyfriend left her, right, she overdosed on purpose. So the goal was to actually kill herself. And I'm like telling her she deserves to live. She did not have to do that. And that's what makes her really want to fight off these drugs. But she texts me saying, all right, yeah, I gotta go. If I don't text you back before 12 p.m. tomorrow, though, just assume the worst. Now, because of this, I am scared shitless, right? As anyone my age would be. I was 14 at this point. So I walk out of my room, and Autumn sees me and immediately knows something just happened, right, when I was on my phone. She knows something went down, something scared me, and something got me like that, right? And she's like, you good? And I'm almost saying, yeah, I'm alright. And obviously she knows it's not alright, you know? She knows that sort of thing. She's been my age before. And she's like, yeah, it's obviously not alright. But she also knows that I did not want to talk about it, so she just kind of leaves me alone, lets me go back to my room. And at this point, now, I'm not a religious person. No shade to anyone who is, of course. I start praying that she lives, bro. I have never prayed in my life until now, right? But I was just so desperate that I just kind of had to start, you know? I'm like, yo, G, hey, help me out here, bro. I was like, yeah, sorry I haven't believed you in like 14 years, bro, but you gotta help me out, man. Nah, this is real, bro. And that's just kind of it. That was the first time I ever prayed, last time I ever prayed in my whole life. And then I just leave my room. And Autumn is like, you want to talk about it now? And I finally came. I tell her everything. I tell her everything that just happened. I tell her that Jasmine is might already be dead now as we speak. And Autumn is just like, she is just terrified for me. Like, I'm crying. She hugs me like, that's a lot. And it is. I am 14, bro. And it's like, I don't even remember what happened after that. That's kind of the last thing I remember from that night. And then I went to sleep, woke up at about 9 in the morning, and I see no text from her. And I'm like, you good? You alright? Nothing. Until about 11:40, I'm like, oh God, I think she might be dead. I'm preparing everything. I'm preparing a whole message we're going to send to our group chat, telling everyone that she's dead. I'm preparing everything, right? And I get a text from my mom, right? Because last night, Autumn had asked if she should tell mom or not, and I'm like, I don't know. And Autumn just does it, right? And my mom texts me, and she says that Jasmine never overdosed in the first place and that she's fine. It turns out she made the whole thing up for attention because she's been lonely ever since Caleb left her, and she was never even in the hospital. She never had the drugs, nothing like that. I don't know how they found that out. I don't know none of that. I don't know whether Jasmine's mom knew what was going on. I have no idea. But from what I know, my mom found out that Jasmine never even overdosed in the first place. Now, that is not even close to where the story ends, right? My sister is calling her a bitch. I'm texting her like, what is wrong with you? Why would you lie to me about this? Like, I was not as pissed as I would have been now, right? Because back then, I was like, why'd you do that, man? But nowadays, I would have just dropped her on the spot, right? And part of me kind of wishes I did. Don't tell her I said that. But I just straight up, I'm not having it, right? I'm still pissed, right? And she texts me. And I'm like, you could have just talked to me like a normal person instead of faking suicide. But this is where things get even twistier. It turns out that she was actually going to do that. She had the pills on hand. And if I hadn't texted her last night, she would have taken them. Because it was easier for her to explain that she was already in the hospital than that she was going to be in the hospital. And everything just started making sense to me. That's why because honestly, it's a boarding school, right? Unless your RA just happens to walk in on you, or your roommate reports that you fucking overdose, obviously there's no way she would have actually been seen dying. And obviously she wouldn't do it in front of her roommate, so she would have had to have been alone. And that also explains, just basically everything. She made it up, but she was going to do that. And me texting her back, reassuring her that she was going to live, is what saved her from actually killing herself that night. And I mean, I saved her life. And nights later, she's texting me basically every other night, almost about to kill herself. I have to tell her not to, and it gets a lot, like, it becomes a lot on my soul. But that's not really the point of the story. But my sister, she's calling her a bitch, and I can't even tell anyone. She made me promise to keep this a secret, but now I'm telling everyone. So, yeah, there it is. So if you're a part of her family or you know her personally, don't make her do any therapy stuff. She's actually fine now. She hasn't been suicidal in years, I'd like to say. I actually don't know for sure. I don't know if she's still taking substances. I don't know if she's still suicidal. We haven't talked since October of last year. But basically, that's basically the end of the story from what I remember. Now, that was probably a lot. I haven't actually told anyone about that. I said maybe Amelia. She actually wanted me to tell Autumn back in winter 2024, or maybe 2023. I can't really remember. But yeah, that's about it. Sorry if the ending wasn't as entertaining as you'd hoped. But, yeah, that's actually why I've hated suicide. Like, I hated suicide jokes for over a year, and why I became anti-drug. And, also, that's kind of just the end of the story from there. Except for my mom, got home and she told me, keep being friends with Jasmine just because she needs someone to talk to, which is, true, as I've said before. But, yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this video. I got more stories coming up on the YouTube very soon. It's full steam ahead from here. If you want more shorter stories, check out the TikTok or the compilation. Either way, I love all of y'all. Thank y'all so much for watching to the end. Have a good day, y'all.